Okay, today we are going to learn how to visualize the data in Python. So specifically, we are going to use this package called matplotlib. It's a package designed for using like a MATLAB way to plot plot figures in Python. And MATLAB is like a mathematical tools. So matplotlib is like a very simple and basic package in Python. And actually, um, it is highly customizable. Like we will learn some of the parameters today, but actually, if you check the menu, there are so many parameters that you can, like from a very basic plot, you can enhance it, get some annotations, or put many figures together and sort of things. So it's actually requires a lot of time to generate a very good looking plot. So as a result, developers in the area, they want you to quickly generate a good looking plot and with only like a fewer parameters. So there are also many other packages, which one of them is called seaborn. We will also briefly talk about how to use seaborn to draw those plot figures. And seaborn, under the hood, it's actually still matplotlib. It's just people build these, develop these functions based on matplotlib. But because it's like more like advanced, so we can actually use fewer syntax and to create a good looking plot. And also you can see later in the of course, like some figures, their color skills looks better in matplotlib. So that's also why many people prefer seaborn in their analysis. So there are many type of figures, but today we will mainly discuss these 6 type of figures because some of the figures actually they look very fancy, but they are only used for a specific task. And actually, as long as about these 6 ones, they are like frequently used in our everyday life. Actually, as long as you analyze the data with these figures, you can basically capture all the information related to the data. And assuming like in the future in your job, you require a specific type of figure, it's very popular in your field, you can just check out their menu and generate the plots. So yeah. So the first one is line plots. This is a very basic plot. We saw it earlier, like in mathematics and other courses. So it's very good to compare different variables over time. And it can also be used for predictions. Basically, this plot, it only has like a two-dimensional, like each dot on this line is just a value. It has both x-axis coordinates and y-axis coordinates. So for example, this is a sine. This curve shows a sine function. And another plot is bar plots. We also, I guess everyone is familiar with this kind of plot. Bar plot is just a way to show different numbers. But we can use different bars to represent different categories of values. So it's ideal for compare like more than 3 categories values. And also we can use these bar plots one by one, one aside near another to directly compare the difference. So another plot is called scatter plot. I'm not sure if you are familiar with this one. This plot is good to visualize the relationship between 2 numerical variables. What does that mean? Like in scatter plot, each dot, it has a x coordinates and the y coordinates. Actually, it's a little bit similar to the line plot. We will also see later, actually, sometimes a line plot is the same with scatter plot, except that like a line plot, usually the data is like continuous data, but for scatter plot, it's just one single dot and another. And it's set between 2 numerical variables, which means like on the x-axis, maybe it has some features of this. For example, this is a petal length of that flower. And on the axis, on the y-axis, it's a sepal length. It's like 2 features of this flower, but we can show that. Just using their length to show their this relationship between these two variables on the two axes. And actually, another very important thing about scatter plot is it can use to show clustering results. We will talk about machine learning and clustering next week. Basically, it's a way to classify different kind of things. But you can see we didn't do any machine learning here. We just plot the flowers length to different type of lengths, and we can already see this kind of pattern, right? So this seems to be a group, and this one seems to be another group. I mean, even without these labels, we know these things are different. So that's a good like a special feature about a scatter plot. It's very good for visualize different groups of data. So next one is box plot. Box plot is just a statistical graph to show different like statistical values of a group of numbers. So for example, here we have the minimum value, the first quarter value, the median, the third quarter, and also the maximum value. And all those dots above here, they are the outliers. So usually, if you don't want to do some statistical comparisons, box plot is a very commonly used plot. There are also other type of like a similar function plot we will show later. Is called violin plot. It's very similar to box plot. I mean, the input is the same and the output it also looks very similar, except that one looks like looks more fancy and colorful. We will show it later in the script part. So next one is the histograms. Histogram is, as you can see from this example, it's just a way to display the frequency distribution. And this example is three different data from the normal distribution. And so yeah, if we want to check the distribution of the data, the histogram is a very good way to do that. And finally, we will talk about heat map. Heat map is I mean, it looks this usually you will see very colorful heat maps, especially if it's a huge heat map. But actually, it's just a matrix. You can see here, this is a kind of a table, right? These are different models, and this is their prediction results on different tasks. So this entire plot is just a table, two-dimensional table, and each cell is just a number. For example, this one, it could be, if you check the color bar, it might be something like 60, yeah, something like that. So it's just different values, but instead of using like a pure table to show you the results, we can use colors to represent this one. I mean, this way we can like quickly get which cell is most important. For example, this one is lighter, maybe it's more like important, or maybe this one is dark, it means its performance is really bad. Yeah, so that's just a way to identify patterns from a matrix. So before we dive into the script, I'd like to show you how a plot generated by matplotlib look like. Usually, like for a plot, we can change these different parameters on the plot. For example, the title of the plot, and the x-axis labels here, y-axis labels, and also the tick on the y-axis. We can, I mean, here this one is 1, 2, 3, but we can actually change it to like maybe a character or like ABC, whatever. We can change it. And also similarly on the axis, we can also change all these values. And also these examples, there are two line plots. I mean, and also some scatter plots. Of course, we can use a line to draw line plot, but we can also actually change it to maybe dotted line, or using a dot to represent the dots. I mean, a circle to represent dot in the lines. We will also show it later. And finally is a legend. Especially if we draw multiple curves, we need a legend to tell the reader like which specific, like what color means what type of results. Yeah. So I think that this is it. Any questions? No? Okay, then let's dive into the code to the Jupyter notebook. So, okay, clear. So we imported several packages, include NumPy, Pandas, and also seaborn. And here we also imported matplotlib, but different from other. Usually for matplotlib, we need this pyplot function to do all the, to do the plotting things. So usually instead of like import matplotlib as something, we just import the pyplot function as plt. That's kind of the classical way to use the matplotlib package. Once it's imported, first we can create a blank plot. You can see we use the plot.figure to create a figure and use the plot.axis to create the axis. Then we have a blank figure and nothing is included in the figure, but it's as the background and also the axis. Then we can add a line, like a line plot to this figure. Here we create a NumPy array, 1000 numbers, and use this all the numbers in this array as x-axis, and use their sign value as the y-axis. This is kind of like a sign function, right? So let's see how it looks. Yeah, this is it can just draw this figure for us, like the sine curve for us. Oh, by the way, you can see here, I put a semicolon here. We know Python, we don't need to do this, right? It's not a Java. But actually, if we remove this, you can see it outputs this line, like matplotlib line 2D or something. This is because this plot function, it actually returns a value like this information. If we directly do it like this line will be output to the Jupyter notebook. But if we just use a semicolon here, it will be removed. Semicolon just force it to directly draw the plot on Jupyter notebook. So this is just about notebook. If you just use a .py script, you don't need to worry about that. So next, this is a very simple plot. Let's add the title and labels to the plot. We can use the set title, set X label, Y label to change these labels on the plot. So the same figure, we add some information here, just using these three functions, same plot, X label, Y label. And also, this is just one curve. If we want to draw a multiple plot, we just call this plot function again and again. Yeah. So this one, now we included the cosine function and get another curve of the cosine curve. But remember, we said if there's a multiple like plot, it's better to have a legend to show the difference, right? Because matplotlib already has this legend function to do that for us, so we don't need to draw that specifically. We just need to give a label to each line. And this one is sine, this one is cosine, and then call the legend function. This function can just show the legend for us automatically. Yeah. Of course, we can also change the colors of each line just by change the color variables in the plot function. By the way, this label and color, these parameters are okay for all the functions. We will see later like a histogram or whatever function. They all take these parameters and we can use them to change the parameter of the curve. Here, I changed the first one to red and the second one to this specific color. So the thing is, of course, we can use like red, orange, or blue to change the color. But those character string colors are only maybe limited. I don't know how many, maybe less 10 colors. If we want to use a specific or maybe good looking color, we can actually use, I recommend this one website called Color Brewer. It has all these different colors, and you can choose whatever you like and just copy this hexadecimal code and then exchange this. For example, I can copy this one to here, and it's changed. Yeah. So this way, I think is especially if you want have multiple colors, you want the colors to be qualitative, like different colors. It's easy to visible by human eye. You can just choose these qualitative colors and select how many colors you want, maybe 12 colors. So these different colors, they are like biologically, they are more good for like distinguish different groups, different things. So we can just copy these values and use them directly in our plot. Yeah. So another things I said I mentioned earlier, it's like we can actually change how the line looks like, right? There's a parameter called line style. So if, for example, it has dashed or dotted or dash dot, let's see how it looks. So yeah, now we have dashed plot and dash dot curves and yeah, there are actually, I think, more than 20 type of line style you can choose to create a different type of colors. And all these things like colors and the line styles, they are useful when you want to draw like maybe 10 or 20 lines in one single plot. You just want to make sure each of them can be clearly visualized by our eyes. Another thing about these line plots, I mean, about matplotlib is we can use set x lim and set y lim to set the limit of the plot. So, I mean, over the axis. For example, y lim is now from -3 to 3, and x is from -5 to 15. Yeah. Although our data is only in this range, but we can actually specifically define the range of the plot. This is also used for if we want to draw several plots, and by defining the axis range, we can make sure like different plots they are comparable. Yeah, we know like if their shape is similar, it's not because of the scale, but because its data is different. Any question on this? No. Okay. Another thing is subplots. Like usually, I mean, for daily analysis, we don't only like generate one plot, right? We need to generate a bunch of plots and align them together to show the same data. So we need this subplot function. The format is like this. Plot, subplot, and this two means two row, two column, which means we have in total 4 different locations to plot 4 figures. Of course, we can just use maybe 2 of them or 3 of them, but this like gave us like this grid style, we can plot different things. And figure size is just the size of the entire figure. Similarly, the same data, we plot sine, cosine, and sine x plus 2 to different locations. Like these are the coordinates of these locations in this 2 by 2. We can see now it's just different curves on different locations of this entire figure. So that's all about line plots and some basic things about matplotlib. Next, let's see how we can create bar plots. So bar plots, it's just about each bar just represent a value, right? So we create this this dictionary showing the different kind of fruits and their like price. So we can actually create one list to get all these keys, like all these names of the like these fruits, and also the values just have all these values. Similarly, we call the figure and the access function and just give the names to the bar and their corresponding values. And the bar function can just draw a bar plot for us. Yeah. And if we want to change the color, we can change the color. If we want to change the width of the bars, we can change the width parameter. And also we can set the X label, Y label, and title for the bars. Also, another way is we can use this bar like a horizontal bar plot. The input is still the same. So because it's horizontal, it doesn't mean we have to switch this one. We can just use continue to use the same like sequence to input the variables and their corresponding values. But we call this bar h function. It can just draw the bar plot, horizontal bar chart for us. So another thing about bar plot is like we saw in this slides, sometimes we use bar plot to compare different groups of data, right? So we can actually plot two bars together. Here, there's actually a bit tricky because the original bar plot, the center of the bars is just on the middle of this, like each axis, each like a variable tick on the axis. But if we want to do two bars, the middle is here, right? It doesn't, I mean, the middle for one group is on the left side, the other one on the right side. So we have to compute these middle like values for us. I mean, by ourselves. For example, I have all these different groups. I just create this original like x-axis middle point on the x-axis, and then I use a bar like half of the bar's width as the like to move the middle point to the left side and to the right side, and then just draw two bars. One is for men, the other for women, and then do this for us. This is also why, like I said earlier, like people don't like matplotlib, like because it's fully customizable. It does also means like we need to compute all these things by ourselves. We will show later, like if we want to do seaborn, seaborn can automatically do this calculation for us. We don't need to like do these things. Also, yeah, this one add bar labels. So like we can use bar labels to add the values on top of each bars to directly show what specific value is. And actually, another very commonly used bar plot nowadays is called stacked bar plot. Like instead of place every bar one by one, we can actually plot the main bar on the bottom and then plot the other bar on the top of it. This way we can compare the different colors directly. We can also compare the total difference this way. And actually, this is I mean, you can see the bars are this way, if we just use the numbers, we can compare the total difference. But if we want to compare, let's say, the proportional difference, we want to know, like in G1, how many of them are men, how many of them are like women. I mean, we can actually, instead of using the numbers, we can actually use the proportion, like compute a proportional value. And let me show you an example. So you can see, yeah, this one. If we instead we use a proportional value to represent it, all the bars will, remain the same. But because different groups, their proportions is different, right? So we can clearly see, oh, okay, this one has a higher, like this group, the other one maybe a higher of this purple group. Yeah, that's also why like a stacked bar plot is very useful. It can be used for this kind of direct comparison. So oh, by the way, I forgot to mention. So this stacked bar plot, the only thing you need to do is like add the bottom parameter to the other group's data value as the bottom. This way, the two values be added together, and the other bar will just be plotted on top of the first bar. So yeah, next is the scatter plot. So let's first see this example. We just randomly create some numbers on the x-axis and y-axis, and we can show the scatter plot. It's just a bunch of dots. Each dot has a x value, has a y value. And the function is just a scatter. you can see this input is actually very similar to the plot function, right? Two value, one for x, one for y. Yeah, that's actually because scatter plot is very similar to line plot. And we can, of course, we can change these dots using a marker variable. So we can use x to represent all those dots. And we can also, there are actually, if you check this menu later, there are many type of markers. Let's see, you can see I just show an example of these 6 different type of markers. And yeah, each marker can give you a different unique unique patterns. So just can consult this menu if you want to change the shape of the dots. And also, of course, we can change the color. This one, CMap using like a cool is like a matplotlib. They have many matplotlib has provided many different colors. They call it color map. So like each color map, they have their different range and different like names. You can find out the one you like and just use them directly. But honestly, myself, I prefer this like direct way. Like you can just choose whatever color you like. So you can see. So this one, we use this color map cool to color different dots. And specifically, we want these colors, we don't want like all the dots have the same color. So we want them have like their color is represent some information. Then we can use this C parameter to tell the function like for each like value in this C parameter, I gave it a specific color. And this Z1, you can see it's because it's calculated based on X and Y. Because X and Y are randomly generated. So this color, you can see there's no pattern there. But in really, I mean, in our daily work, we can actually let the colors represent something. Maybe a darker color means this dot is more important. The other lighter color means it's not important. We can just use this parameter like an additional way to assign a color. But of course, because this like each value in this Z1 corresponding to another dot on the plot, so the length of this Z has to be the same with X and Y. Yeah, actually, we can check the Z1 is just a bunch of values. Each value can give you a color. So, and this example shows similarly, we use Z1 to represent the color, but we change this color map. And also we have this Z2, which is another like array to represent the size of the dot. And also we can change the alpha to make it like a more like a, because the size is different, right? So those dots, they might be overlaps. So using alpha, we can actually change the transparency of the dots and make sure all the dots is clearly showed. So all these different things, I mean, they are just a way to combine as many information as possible to one plot. So I would say this is just a like a personal habit. Some people prefer to like one figure with more, especially if you publish a paper, sometimes you have requirements on the length of the paper. You have to use one figure to include as many information as possible. But of course, you can just draw like 3 scatter plots to represent 3 different information. That's also doable in your future work. So yeah, so this one actually, this example here shows that this is line plot, but we can actually use the I mean, if we change the parameter, it actually looks very similar to a scatter plot, right? Because this time now this is not like a continuous value. Instead, it's just a group of array. So this is because like similarly, it's just this is because like previously this plot function should be used over scatter plot. if you have many like dots, large data set. But nowadays, actually, because so many packages has been developed, I mean, for our daily life, I mean, maybe only a few thousand of dots, scatter plots is definitely okay. If you have like like an industrial data set, you have millions of dots, you can use this function called plotly. They have functions, they are specifically designed to work with like industrial data, and you can show like a few millions of dots on one plot, and you can also do this interactive dot plots just using their functions. So I would say don't worry about like which function should I choose. I think as long as you know the basics, in the future, you can just use the latest packages online and draw a plot for us. So we have also the box plot, and it shows the minimum value, Q1, Q3, medium, and the maximum value. And here we create a data set and show this box plot using the box plot function. So yeah, this is just a result. Yeah, it's I mean the input of a box plot is just a group of numbers, and we can also change the style. I mean the box plot function, it has all these parameters. We can also change the style to this notch dot plot. Basically, this specific shape here represent the distribution of the dot. I mean the data on this in this data points in this data set. Maybe this means like there are more data less than the medium and sorry, less data less than the medium and more data points larger than the medium. And also we can use this way to tell the function to remove the outliers. There's no dots and no outliers on it. And also, if you want to highlight the outlier, we can also change the colors of these outliers. This GD means like green diagonal, sorry, not diamond. So there are, if you check the manual later, there are all these different parameters. Just can look up their table in the future as you based on your requirement. So but we also mentioned in the slide like a box plot is a very good way to compare different different type of data. There's statistically difference. Here we create all these 4 type of data and put it into this list. We can just give this list to the box plot function. Now there are 4 different box plot created. Yeah, and we can clearly see their difference. This one maybe it's higher, statistically higher than the others. Usually, if we usually box plot is also combined with this one. Let's see. Yeah, usually box plot, it also has this bracket on top of them to compare the statistical difference of these 2 groups. We can, I mean, there are many statistic functions like t-test or those things. You can compare the difference and show the box plot first and using bracket to see like if they are statistically different. So yeah, this violin plot is very similar to box plot, also showing the pattern, except you can see there is a specific shape. It can directly show the distribution of data points. That's what I said. Like nowadays, many people they prefer to use violin plots to represent replace box plot. You can see the input is still the same, right? Very similar, but this one it looks nicer and give you more information. Okay, let's see how we can draw a histogram. So histogram, this function is just a hist. Give a data to the hist function, it can just draw the histogram for you, showing the normal distribution. But like the default parameter, they divided points to smaller number of bins, so it looks weird. But we can actually change the transparency of the bars and change the colors. Also increase the number of the bins to make the final results looks more. You can see it looks more like closer to the normal distribution. Of course, we can just draw several histograms on one single plot and to compare their difference of the data set, distribution difference. Yeah, that's all about matplotlib. Then let's see some examples how to use seaborn to draw plot. And specifically, we use this data set called arrays. We saw it on the slides, like this one. This one. Yeah, this one actually is obtained from the arrays data set because the arrays is a specific type of flower like this. And there are like a few different type of arrays, and we can directly use the length of their leaves and all those things to distinguish them. I think this data set is very like popular for machine learning like beginners, and you can see there each flower can just be directly predicted based on these 4 type of lengths. So people measure this length on the existing flowers and give you the species. So let's read this data because this scikit-learn we will talk about later next week when we learn machine learning. It's a beginner friendly package for machine learning, and it has all the data sets and all the classical models like random forest and logistic regression. And it even has some deep learning models, but it's very basic deep learning models. So we will talk about later next week, but we will use this data set today. Just use the load arrays function from the data set function, and we can get the data set. And here, like all the data set in scikit-learn, they have this specific format. It has a data key which includes all the values. And the target is like for the arrays, it's like what type of flower it is. And also feature names, which is like for this flower, it has 4 types, like a sepal length and this feature length, and also the labels. Labels is like a numerical value we can use in machine learning model, because mathematical models, they only take numerical values as input, right? So usually we just use a value to represent the characters. So this maybe 1, 0, 1, 2 to represent 3 type of flowers. So the final database, the data frame is just like this. You can see different features and different labels. Each row is just a flower, and it has their what type of flower it is. And here we first use a for loop to plot several using scatter plots to plot all these different dots. You can see this is the result. Although we didn't do any machine learning, all these flowers are already characterized. Grouped into different clusters, and but we can actually use seaborn to do that. Seaborn has like many functions. One of them is called pair plot. It just read this data frame and draws up so many type of figures using to compare different feature like sepal length versus petal length, all these things. You can just using one function to give you all this information together. Yeah. So this is just one of their functions. They actually has many more functions, and so basically just fewer input, but more good looking and informative output. And also you can see this like it has this function, this parameter called hue, like it can directly group all the dots into 3 different ways based on their label names. So you can see that once you set a hue, they will use these label names in this column to color different groups of flowers. You don't need to specific set all these values. So the last plot we will see is called heat map. So we load similarly we load a data set. Because seaborn is also it's for visualization, right? It has their tutorials, so they also offer this load data set, which means they have some data set you don't need to download, just can directly use them. And this is a table showing the different models and their performance on different tasks. And it's a table, so we can just give it to seaborn and directly use it, and we can obtain the heat map. Yeah, and the thing is, for seaborn, there are different functions. They take different type of input. For this heat map, their input is a wide format data frame. We learned about the long format and wide format last week, right? So for heat map, their input is wide format. But if we check the box plot, they require the input to be long format data frame. So this is just, I would say it's just the developers, their personal preference. They make their function in this way, so we have to use it. In R, actually, if you want to draw a heat map, you need a long format data frame instead of wide format. So just check their manual before you use their function. This is how we can create a heat map using seaborn, and this one example shows how we can use box plot to show this. To generate a box plot using a box plot function in seaborn. And here you can see previously for different type of box plot, several box plot, we need to create a array, create a list first, give it to the box plot function. But if we used seaborn, we don't need to do that. We can directly tell that the box plot function, the x-axis is a different variables, which is like different groups, and the y-axis is a value, and the data is a long data. Then it can automatically separate all these data points into different groups. That's also one advantage of seaborn. So finally, we created these figures. Because it's in Jupyter Notebook, it offers this save function. We can save it directly. But another way is commonly used way is to you call the save figure function. We just gave the name, location of the figure, the resolution, and the box type means like to reduce the margin of the generated file. Then it can be saved directly. And but one thing to remember, when you want to save this figure, remember to put this save figure before the plot show. This is because plot show will show the figure and then flush the memory, just kind of remove everything on the memory. So if you call this save figure after this command, nothing will be saved. It's just a blank page. So we have to save it first and show it then this way the figure can be properly saved. That's all about today's functions we want to learn. Any question? Okay, and then let's solve a few tutorial questions. So there are 3 questions. The first one just I don't know if you still remember that fish file I showed previously. I will upload the file to Moodle and for your practice. Basically, the first one just use box plot to show the different manage of the fishes, and also the second one use a bar plot to show the for different management and different shore type, what is the length of the fish. And the third one, you need to load the diabetes data set using the load diabetes function from a scikit-learn package. It's the same with the arrays. You just need to change the function, and the data will be loaded successfully. And to create a scatter plot using either seaborn or like matplotlib. Yeah. I will give like 10 minutes for each question for everyone to practice, and I will explain them like every 10 minutes for these questions. Also, feel free to come to me if you have any questions. Thank you.